used to work at a call center at that time. I had been there for years, and eventually got promoted to head manager of the department. It was a good job, and everyone got along great. I like to think of everyone as my little work family, but there was one person from work that I didn't really like. His name was Luis. The guy was a total creep and weirdly obsessed with me. What made it worse is that he didn't act that way to the other women in the office. It was only with me. He made me uncomfortable as hell. The problem was that I had added everyone from work on Instagram, and we would all chat and share different photos or posts outside of work. I had added Luis as well because I didn't want to exclude him, but I regretted adding him once he started messaging me all the time. After a few months of working with him, he started sending me weird, obsessive messages on Instagram where he would profess his love for me. It was incredibly odd and kind of creepy because I had never even flirted with him before, but that didn't stop him from sending me messages to ask me out practically every day. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I think I'm falling in love with you." I always rejected him and told him I wasn't interested. I really had no desire to go out with him. Plus, I was seeing someone else. Still, I tried to be as polite as I could because I knew that I would see Luis at work. I didn't want to make things more awkward. But over time, the messages continued for quite a while, and I eventually just stopped responding to them, hoping he would take the hint. That somehow only made it worse, though. It got so bad that he started performing poorly at work. Eventually, the higher-ups fired him. I felt bad for him, and I also felt partially responsible for getting him fired. I ended up walking him to his car on his last day of work to try and give him a nice farewell. I wished him good luck with everything. And then he suddenly leaned in and kissed me on the cheek while whispering, "I'll see you later." I immediately backed off. He got in his car and drove away. The whole interaction really creeped me out, but I was glad that I wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. Luis started messaging me on Instagram, saying I was all he could think about and that he was unable to concentrate on anything else. I ghosted him for a while, and then eventually blocked him. Somehow I knew that blocking him just wasn't going to stop him though, because not long after, the psycho just made a new account and started messaging me again despite the block. He would send me creepy messages saying stuff like, "You can't keep running from this. I know what we have is real." It made my life hell. I didn't know what I could do to stop it. I started to get really scared and eventually got a restraining order against him. But that didn't even stop the new accounts. He just made more to message me again with more menacing messages. Eventually, I made my relationship with the guy I was seeing official in my bio and posted a picture of us on my profile picture on Instagram. I hoped after that he would leave me alone. That made Luis go mad, sending me several different messages expressing his rage. I didn't bother to respond to him. I just blocked all of his accounts again and tried to get on with my life. Later that night, I was home alone sleeping. I was sure I was never going to hear from that freak again. It must have been around 12 a.m. at night when I heard glass shattering from inside my house. Then, I was suddenly shook frozen by my front door slamming open. I was confused and scared as hell. There was no one in the house but me. Then, I heard something moving around downstairs. I quickly grabbed my phone and called my boyfriend.
"Babe, I think there's someone here. You need to get over here now."
He told me that he was coming and that I should call the cops. I started dialing 911, but the next thing I knew, I saw my bedroom door getting hammered down Shining style. I knew that it had to be Luis. I kept screaming and begging for him to stop, but he just kept hammering away at the door. I watched horrified as he smashed hole after hole through it. He was going to be in my room any second. The phone was ringing as I hoped and prayed that either the police or my boyfriend would get here before it was too late.
911, what's your emergency?
I found her on her bed. It didn't even look like her anymore. I couldn't recognize her. If I had just gotten there sooner, I might have been able to stop him. But it was too late. She was gone. I called the police once I was able to pull myself together. They searched the area, but they didn't find anything. I later found out that the guy had turned himself in that same night. He's since been locked up. I've been traumatized by the ordeal ever since. I can't even look at an Instagram post or message anymore. All it does is remind me of her, and remind me of how I should have stopped him before he ever got the chance to get her. This story was inspired by a horrific incident. A young woman whose online post made her new relationship quote-unquote Instagram official was taken out hours later by her deranged stalker. Celeste Mano was taken out in her own bed by a 39-year-old man named Louis Seiko. It was November 16, 2020, and he became enraged upon seeing her hand in hand with her new boyfriend, Chris Ridsdale. Seiko then went to the victim's address, smashed his way into her bedroom with a hammer, and did what he did. After the encounter, Seiko then drove directly to a local police station to admit what he did. He pleaded guilty after trying to contest the charges for years. The court had heard Seiko had bombarded Miss Mano with endless messages professing his love for her in the year before the night of horror. Seiko had worked with the victim briefly at a call center where she was a team leader before he got fired. Seiko had already been charged for stalking and harassing Miss Mano, including kissing her on the cheek as she walked him to his car on his last day of work. Both Miss Mano and her mother had pleaded with Seiko for him to leave her alone in the months and weeks before he struck. The court heard Seiko pestered her with creepy, menacing messages via Instagram through various accounts, concluded with a 3.5-page rant in which he demanded she withdraw her police complaints against him. Some of the messages saying stuff like, "I'm sorry, but I can't stop thinking about you. I have never felt like this about anybody in my entire life. It's bordering along OCD. I'm totally infatuated with you, captivated and fascinated by you. You're all I think about." The man has since been sentenced accordingly.
I didn't really have any friends when I first started college. All the friends I had in high school moved to faraway cities to attend big-name universities. While I was going to the community college near my town, there wasn't many girls to date or hook up with, leading to a lot of guys hitting on me. However, there was this one guy that stood out from the rest, and not in a good way either. His name was Josh. He was this goth-looking guy with long hair and piercings. Josh was extremely forward, but it wasn't until the second semester when we started sharing a class together that he would start talking to me more. I would try to avoid him by all means by sitting as far away from him every time I had class with him. But despite that, the guy would always leech his way toward me when we were on break just to talk to me. It was quite pathetic, as he started talking like we were longtime friends or something in front of the other classmates. I would actively try to ignore the guy, giving him one-word responses to make it clear I wasn't interested. He eventually asked for my Instagram. Weirdly enough, I gave it to him just so he would leave me alone. Later that night, I was in bed watching YouTube videos on my laptop when I got a notification on my phone. It was Josh. From my home screen, I can see that he had sent me a photo on Instagram. I found it strange that he was already sending me pictures. I waited a bit to open it so I didn't seem interested. By the time I got around to it, he had also sent me a message saying, "This could have been us," which made me curious, but also weirded out. I opened the photo and saw Josh sitting on a couch, smiling wide with his arm around another girl. Immediately, a pit formed in my stomach. The girl looked way younger than Josh, like she was probably a freshman in high school. My mind ran wild as I stared at the photo. She looked uncomfortable as hell. Eventually, I realized there wasn't anything I could do, so I decided not to get involved. I left him on red and went back to my videos. It wasn't much more than 10 minutes later when he messaged me again. This time it was a video. Unfortunately, I couldn't hold back my curiosity, so I opened it. The whole thing was just 15 seconds of him making out with that girl. I watched it like a train wreck, unable to look away. By the end of it, I wanted to throw up. I wanted to block him, but I knew it would be awkward when I saw him in class, so I left him on red again, hoping he would leave me alone. For a while, it seemed like it worked. I didn't get a message on Instagram for nearly an hour, but then my heart sank as I realized I was getting a video call from Josh. I let it ring until it stopped, only for him to call me again right after. I sat there, staring at my phone, trying to think my way out of the situation. Josh called me 4 more times before I realized he wasn't going to stop, so I finally answered. That's when I saw Josh's face in almost complete darkness, looking like he was about to faint. The light coming off his phone when I answered revealed blood splattered all over his face, sending chills down my spine. I was more creeped out than I have ever been in my entire life. Before I could say anything, Josh started pleading with me. I could hear tears and panic in his voice. He kept saying he needed me to come to his place to help him with something, but he wouldn't say what. He told me he was willing to pick me up and bring me over, but I just needed to help him. Something was horribly wrong, and I had to find out. Please come help me. I'm in serious trouble. I did something really bad.
What did you do?
No, I can't say it.
Josh, I'm not helping you with anything unless you tell me what's wrong.
Okay, I'll tell you. Just promise me you won't tell anyone.
Yes, what is it?
I need you to help me get rid of her. That's when Josh switched the camera around, revealing a flash of someone's feet and legs on the floor smeared with blood. My brain couldn't process what I was looking at. A moment later, Josh switched the camera back and begged me to help him move her. That's when everything clicked in my head. He wanted me to help him move the girl's body he was with. I knew Josh had done something to her. I hung up immediately and ran to my parents' room to tell them what was happening. I eventually convinced them to call the cops. All I know about what happened next was that Josh fled his trailer when the police arrived, but they were able to catch and arrest him. No information has ever been released about what happened between Josh and that girl, except that he took her out with a firearm. Ever since that night, I haven't seen Josh since. I can't even use Instagram anymore. I'm just reminded by that horrifying night. This story was inspired by a horrific incident regarding a Pennsylvania man who has been arrested after allegedly taking out a girl and using Instagram to ask for help with disposing the remains. Police in Bensalem say operators received a call from a woman who said her daughter was shown the victim's body by an old acquaintance, later identified as Joshua Cooper, via an Instagram chat. During the video call, Cooper can be seen stating that he had just took someone out, police said. He then flipped a video image and showed the legs and feet of someone covered in blood. Police were advised Cooper lived in a mobile home property in Bensalem. When officers arrived, they saw the suspect running out from the back of the trailer. The officers entered the home and found the victim lying on the bathroom floor. There were also indications that substantial steps were taken to clean up the crime scene. Police conducted a search and caught Cooper a short time later. The victim and Cooper were reportedly watching Netflix that afternoon. The victim died from a firearm that Cooper took from his father's safe. Cooper allegedly told the police the incident was an accident.
Recently, my parents left me home alone. They were going on a trip for their anniversary. It wasn't the first time. I was old enough to take care of myself. They left me food, and all I planned on doing was playing video games and watching TV. However, on the second day, I remember scrolling through Instagram. At around noon on Sunday, I got a notification that someone had liked my most recent post. It was a picture I took of some nasty school lunch I had gotten that day, and I also didn't know them. It was someone with the username SmartSchoolboy9, so I figured it had to be someone from my school. A few seconds later, they commented asking forward questions, like if I liked school and if we wore uniforms. I randomly decided to engage and replied to him. Several minutes later, I got more notifications that the SmartSchoolboy9 person started following me and also sent me a message. He said something about how he could make school more fun for me. I ended up telling him the name of my school. He then claimed that our schools were very close to each other and that it was shitty that we didn't get to wear a school uniform like he did. A few moments later, instead of replying with a text, he sent an audio message. I opened it, and the voice I heard sounded sort of like a little kid, but something was off about it.
I like my uniform because when I wear it, everyone knows I'm going to school. And I love school. I want to make you love school too.
Based on what he said, I thought he was some weird kid with a speech impediment or something. I tried not to give him a hard time, so I went along with it. After we traded a few more messages, Schoolboy eventually asked if I wanted to meet up at a nearby park. I thought nothing of it at the time, just meeting someone at my school, so I agreed to go. I walked about a mile to the park, where I waited for over an hour, but Schoolboy never showed up. I got fed up and went back home, annoyed with myself and that stupid kid. Several hours pass, and that's when Schoolboy finally responded to me. This time, it was a video message. I don't think I could ever recreate the sinking feeling in my stomach when I saw the face of the real schoolboy. He was a fully grown man, old enough to have a receding hairline. His face was painted white and he was wearing bright red lipstick. His tongue was sticking out as he made excuses for not meeting me.
I'm really sorry you didn't see me at the park today. I was learning a special subject at school. You probably know all about it because you're so big, smart, and handsome. But I promise we'll meet for realsies next time.
I was in utter shock, realizing I had been catfished. I then looked through his account, and what I saw only added to the terror. He had these weird, poorly made collages of random things with pictures of young individuals whose faces were all distorted and creepy looking. He had also posted several videos of himself in a school uniform with the same face get-up I saw in the message, posing with this lunchbox and pretending to go to school. Yet for some reason, he was wearing these high-heeled boots, which were mentioned in almost every single post as his favorite part of the uniform. Then, I received another message from him. He said he wanted me to meet his new friend, and then sent a link to an Instagram account. I tapped it, dreading what I might see, and for good reason. The account only had one post, and it was my face, distorted like all the others, plastered on a picture of a woman in a skimpy schoolgirl uniform, with schoolboy's favorite boots on the feet. The caption read, "Look how much fun I'm having in my uniform." I immediately blocked both accounts, not knowing what else to do. I wished I had looked at his account before talking to him, especially before going out to meet him, but the damage was done. I tried distracting myself for the rest of the night, eventually crawling into bed, but of course, I couldn't sleep. Then, I heard weird sounds coming from outside. After a moment, my blood turned to ice. I recognized it. It was Schoolboy's weird mouth sounds. I jumped out of bed, only to hear him calling my name outside my window. I slowly approached the curtains, hoping to pull them back and see that I was hearing things. But when I did, his face was pressed against the glass.
Nice to finally meet you. It's time to get into your uniform.
Leave me alone or I'm calling the cops! Help!
Suddenly, he took off his boot and smashed the heel through the window. I ran away, screaming for my life. I locked myself in my parents' bedroom and called the police, just as he found me and started banging on the door. The banging went on for a few more minutes before he finally stopped. By the time the cops arrived, he was long gone. I told them everything, and we tried finding his Instagram account, but it had already been deleted. Unfortunately, he was never caught, which means he's still out there. This story was inspired by a disturbing Instagram report that has been going viral online regarding a deeply disturbed individual who likes to dress up as a school child and post weird, unsettling, and in some cases revolting videos and images on the internet. For now, his true identity remains unknown, but there is no doubt that the chilling case of Smart Schoolboy 9 has sent parts of the internet into a collective tailspin. People around the world are furiously trying to work out his real name and accurate location. Though he is thought to be in South London, the origins of this chilling episode began on Instagram in 2021, when several accounts were launched in succession. The first, truth_sticks_11, claimed to be run by a boy and his mother. It started posting pictures of a young blonde boy, who may have in fact been an AI creation all along. The photos began fairly normal, but then become bizarre, with the face digitally distorted to look like a creepy cartoon. The creator also appeared to have an obsession with women's high-heeled mini boots, with many of the images featuring young individuals edited to appear to be wearing them. A second Instagram account called GirlChloe12 claimed to belong to another young individual who shared the same obsession with the high-heeled boots. The third account, Smart Schoolboy 9, was altogether more chilling. It consisted of photos and videos of an overweight man dressed as a hideous caricature of a schoolboy. Much of his face painted white with bright red lipstick and wearing those same high-heeled mini space boots. He spoke with a disturbing high-pitched voice and his tongue was almost permanently protruding. All in all, it has been widely suspected that the man could be a predator. His posts including frequent shots of specific parts of Streatham, South London. Smart Schoolboy 9 also repeatedly mentions someone he calls David, leading many to suspect that that is his real name. He has also claimed to be in his 50s. Police say an investigation is ongoing, but his intentions are unclear and that they are aware of the video being posted online. But until the individual is definitely unmasked, it seems unlikely that the rising panic will stop.